This is a very real market that is here to stay. We were one of the first people to build a real-time text-to-speech that ran under 200 milliseconds. This is definitely not winner takes all, and we don't even know what winning means at this point of time. Why this is a massive multi-trillion-dollar market is because you are basically gonna have every human as a consumer. Took 2 weeks to go from 2 kids writing code in a bedroom to raising a PC drum. And then the product was just a HTML page with a model with one GPU running behind it. And I had enterprises coming saying, we want this. We are literally creating a list of top 50 dream customers that we have and going aggressively through a very targeted motion of how could we get them through a Palantir style approach. That was one of the best decisions we have ever taken.
Hi, this is Siddharth Alwaria, your host at Neon Show and managing partner at Neon Fund, a fund that will invest in the best of enterprise AI companies between the US and India corridor like Atomic Works, SpotDraft, CloudSec. Today I have with me Sudarshan, founder of Smallest. Sudarshan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is one of my biggest regrets, I can tell you, that not being able to be part of Smallest because, as you know, right, we were raising our own Neon Fund 3 at that point of time. We got connected, right? But glad to see your journey, really inspired. And, you have like set sky as the limit in your journey at Smallest. And what you have been able to create out of India is transformational. So kudos to you on doing that.
Thank you.
And I know because I've been a founder from India and still like running our own funds, almost like a founder, the ceiling on India sometimes hit you and you have to break off that. Then in your case, before we dive into Smallest, tell me about your journey and how did you break that ceiling?
Yeah, I have grown up in India. I was born in Mumbai, brought up in Pune. I was lucky enough to choose science when I was young, and I really liked physics. So I've always been scientific in my younger days, and when someone would ask me what I wanted to be, I would say I want to be a quantum physicist, or like I want to go study large bodies and things like that. I got into college in India in IIT, and at that point of time, you realize that there is very little opportunity to pursue these sort of deep research projects. No one is doing that. Everyone is doing competitive coding, right? And so I used to write code since I was very young because my father was in Infosys and he got me a computer when I was young. So I could write code and I wrote like database and like a bunch of other things. So I was like, okay, let's enjoy code, but what do we do about it? Like, why are we competing? And I did not want to do coding competitively. I wanted to build something. And luckily, I came across computer vision as a topic. So computer vision is pre-AI days. Today, you call it vision language models. But at that time, it was just a very like basic approach to understanding images and videos. Got the opportunity to work at like Samsung's, one of startups that was funded by Samsung in Korea. Worked in self-driving cars. Like this is like when OpenAI was just coming up, or like pre-OpenAI days. And so that got me like really interested. Like, AI seems to have like a broad set of applications that, we can have. And so no one was giving a job in AI at that point of time, except some of these foreign companies. And I'm like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. And
this is which year?
This was in 2017, basically. So.
And you were in first year of college?
I was in second year, first to second year, yeah, basically. So I was like, I want to really go into AI and figure out AI, but no jobs in AI in India, right? So I got a job in Korea. I was like super excited about going there. I was studying, doubling down into AI, etc. And then I was not able to get a visa for some reason. They were like, if you are below the age of this, Korean government changed the rule that you have to hire Koreans, basically. So I was like, okay, what do you do now? So I got the opportunity to work in a startup in India that was building something in EdTech plus AI. So you must have heard of Topper.com, right? So that was like completely different from my studies on computer vision, pure research, etc. But we built something which was like the largest repository of like EdTech material in the world, where we indexed all textbooks from various syllabuses, CBSE, ICSE across India, and we overtook Byju's in traffic, and we got acquired by Byju's for like $150 million back then. And so we were also building this pre-chat GPT, this AI bot, which could basically, you can ask any JE question and then it can come up with answers, and then you can also connect with a human to answer those questions. So I enjoyed that, and that got me like really curious about startups, basically. Of that Topper team, there are 10 startups that have come out. Largest is Cuckoo FM. So Cuckoo is gonna do an IPO very soon. But everything I know about how a startup should operate came from Topper. One thing was very clear though, is if I want to build something, I want it to be in deep tech. And so I started again looking for opportunities in AI. And luckily, there was this professor called Arjun Jain. So Arjun was working with Yann LeCun. Yann is one of the founding fathers of AI. He was one of the first people in the world to do deep learning. So back when AlexNet came out, he was in the heat of things, and he's built this company, Arjun, which he sold to Mercedes, and then he used to act as a consultant for all of these automobile companies for self-driving vehicles. So I was like, this is my opportunity. I'm gonna like work with Arjun, and so I kind of got there. I started working with him. We started building the Hydra model for self-driving cars. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we built like a model that can run in real time on the vehicle hardware for level 3 self-driving across multiple countries: Germany, US, Japan, etc. And that was where I learned how to productionize AI at scale. And also how that was the point where I started realizing how powerful small models are. Because what we used to do is we used to train these cloud-based models that were pretty big, and then we used to make them smaller through this process called distillation and make them run on the vehicle hardware in real time. And what that taught us was that most of the pre-training data for these large models was junk and garbage. But when you use that pre-training model as a teacher for this small model, and we could go into what teacher means, but it would basically act at similar accuracies as the larger model at 100th or 1/10 of the size. So that kind of got me thinking around, why is that behavior there, and do LLMs also have similar properties, right? And so that's when I started doing some more research around small models, and I bought the domain smallest.ai around then. This is like, I got it for like $100. And the idea was basically how to
This is which year?
This was 2022, right? So this is like even one or 2 years before I started the company, actually, right? And so then that idea was always there. I was doing like a lot of research, and eventually I decided to basically quit my full-time role and actually go.
Where were you doing full-time role?
I got into this legal tech plus AI. So we were trying to build like a Harvey AI competitor, basically, called Zolvit, Vakil Search. So 1 in 10 businesses in India uses Vakil Search for legal tech compliance, etc. So this was like a place where you could get like an accountant in like 10 minutes, and basically also for lawyers we have a product where you can automate your case management and things like that. So we were one of the first people who had actually adopted vector databases in India, because we were one of Pinecone's first customers, and we were building out RAG, and we were building out all these systems. But I think that was not a very successful outcome. We realized that if you have to build for the legal market, you have to build from the US, basically, or for the US at least, right? Everywhere else the market is just too tiny for you to get any money out of that, sadly. But learned a lot there about the whole, how do you separate memory from model layers. So that was a place where I got to experiment that, because you have a large amount of legal judgments, and all of that has to be indexed, and it can't be stored in the model context, right? So you have to, the idea of context engineering, which is becoming popular right now, was being worked upon by us back then to manage these legal searches and answers on that, basically. So after that I was pretty clear. Like I've seen like a startup going to an acquisition. I've seen like a deep tech product going from zero to production. I have seen another startup go to like a series B. And so I wanted to start something of my own. I'm not talking about like the other small attempts I have tried on my own, because they were very, in my opinion, juvenile. But one thing was very clear, that if I wanted to start, you have to just go at it. You can't half as a startup. You have to do it full time. You have to put your money behind it. I put the first 150K into Smallest of my own, and we basically got like some GPUs, and we started like training models.
This is which year?
This is 2024.
You quit your job in 2024, and then?
I quit my job 2023. I was like figuring out what to do for like 6 years, and then 2024 second half is when sort of we were training some models. 2024 second half is when we are like, okay, something is working, and our training was working. So 2024 second half, we were experimenting with small models, and we realized that one of the applications of these small models was to build real-time systems, because they have very low latency, like 100-200 milliseconds of latency. And so we started looking at, okay, which applications have low latency. One was your finance, and I really don't like finance, so I was like, I'm not going to be good at this. But voice AI seemed very exciting, because voice AI was just coming up 2024.
11 Labs started becoming popular.
Yes, 11 Labs was started, I think, last year, maybe 2023, or I'm not exactly sure of the timelines, but So voice AI was coming up, but 11 Labs was completely into offline dubbing and things like that. They did not have a real-time model, right? So we were one of the first people to build a real-time text-to-speech that ran under 200 milliseconds. So we put a demo on LinkedIn that went viral, and that's how we, like, it took 2 weeks to basically go from 2 kids writing code in a bedroom to raising a pre-seed round, basically.
And how many VCs had you spoken to back then for your pre-seed?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we did not know how to do this VC startup. We thought, like, I mean, you just like go and ask for it and like you'll get money. I had no clue what it takes. What does a VC look for? Nothing like that. So we would get random analysts coming and messaging us saying, hey, you're building something, because we had put like stealth startup in our LinkedIn, right? So someone would come message. We must have spoken to every single VC at that point of time. And then they would randomly come and reject us. I'm like, I'm not even like raising, like, what do you mean? But like someone would come say, oh, you're too early, you should do this, you should do this. Like, dude, I'm not asking you. Like, we are working on it, right? So that would happen. And then we knew we had something when this text-to-speech model went out, basically, because that, like, we were getting like literally like there was a 2-week window where like my LinkedIn following like 2x, 3x or something like that. My like the LinkedIn DMs were completely filled. X DMs were completely filled. Emails were coming in. I was in customer calls back to back. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then the product was just a HTML page with the model with one GPU running behind it, right? And I had like 2-3 enterprises coming saying, we want this. I was like, what do we do? That's when I was able to get some formal interest. And I remember I had gone to Bangalore. I was
You were in Mumbai back then?
So a little bit of history before this. So I had dropped out of UCSD as well. So after Bosch, I had thought, like, should I do my education? Because like I told you, I was like a slightly scientific person, right? So I was like, should I go back to studies? But when I got into UCSD, COVID was again, I think the third wave or something like that was happening. And I was like, I don't want to do remote. Plus I got this other legal tech offer in India. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to drop out. But so I was planning to come to the US and raise again, because I had some network connects, etc. here. But I decided, let's try to see what the Bangalore ecosystem has. And I was at that point not aware of the stark difference in Bangalore and US, right? So yes, so I was in Pune. I went to Bangalore. Pune is my hometown, so I went to Bangalore to basically talk to VCs, right? And I remember the first meeting we had. That was I think a really good meeting we had, luckily, with this VC called Upsparks. So Upsparks basically met us in office. They're like, we want to talk, and we were like, okay, who are these guys? Like, let's talk. And we gave a pitch. They probed us a lot on the tech. They wanted to see whether we were like just bullshitting or did we actually understand what we are training. And obviously we knew our shit, so we gave them a AI 101 lesson, right? And after the pitch, I was like, okay, like, where is the check? So I was expecting, like, okay, like, I pitched myself. Now we have other VCs to go to. So can you just tell me a yes or no right now? Yeah. He's like, no, that's not how it works. We need like a day or two to decide. Okay, so I'm like, can I come like tomorrow? Like, what's the... So, but I remember they were the first to give us like a term sheet, basically. And the moment Upspark's term sheet came, like the next day, we had Vaibhav from Better Capital who came on a call. His was the smoothest process. He came on a call in the morning. By evening, we had a term sheet, right? And
so
then,
how much did you raise from each Upsparks and Better?
Upsparks was like not much, like 100K if I am not wrong, and Better was another 250 or so. Right?
The total round was 350K.
350K, and then a couple of angels of 400 or something like that. This is at like a 3 million post money sort of around, right? Like, you have no idea what the valuations are. Is 3 good, bad? I'm like, oh, you're giving me money, like, oh, this is like too good, you know? But then I remember I was running around Bangalore. I had meetings with like every single VC in this 2 weeks when we had like gone viral. And 314 Capital, I had never heard of them. Okay. I ended up at their office late for the IC meeting. So I came like 15 minutes late. My bag was torn. So it was like, I had an open bag. I had a torn shirt for some reason because it got like stuck in the auto. So the bag and the shirt both tore. 15 minutes late, coming in between the IC meeting, pitching. And then I remember there was this one person sitting who I've never met before. And And after all of this, we came out. They are like, we are very interested, and like the next day we got a term sheet from
And
them.
that was like 1 at 6 or something?
That was they had offered something like that. We asked them to reduce the check size. We said we can't take 1 at 6. It's like too much dilution for us. So I think we ended up at like some 500 at 6 or something.
And this is within 1 week of Upsparks?
Yeah. Everything is happening in like 1 or 2 weeks of this thing. So finally we ended up saying we don't want to raise more. We just closed like a 900-ish.
600K from 314 and remaining from...
Exactly, right? That was the plan. Now, what happened is we got to work. We got like a small house in Bangalore.
And this was the India HQ company till then, or it was US company?
So that's a very good point. Now, the next question that came to us like during this time was, where do we incorporate, right? Because I had an India company. There was like no revenue, nothing in that, which was a good thing because we had two options: either continue getting revenue there, get invoices there, or flip. Flipping was going to take 2 months, 2 to 3 months. But for us, it was very, very clear. That was a bet I took, that it's okay. Like, even if we don't raise, these term sheets go away, it's okay, but let's flip. So I decided to set up a Delaware C Corp, and then we went through the whole ODI process, etc. And then we set up the India as a subsidiary.
Understood.
And the core logic was we wanted to build a global company. I had like no interest to build a local company. The reason Silicon Valley is big is because all over the world, people use services from here. And we wanted access to global capital. We wanted access to global talent. There was no way we could do that, unfortunately, by being there. We obviously want to help India. I mean, I've benefited so much from great people from India, right? Like, but I think there is an indirect way to do that even with having a subsidiary there. Like, you can literally hire the best talent, pay them a lot more than everyone else, and help India that way as well, right? So, but my thesis was very clear. Like, I want to work on something more ambitious. Like, it is not just Indian languages. Indian languages for me was like just an operational problem to solve, getting data sets, etc. But it was not a scientific enough problem that helps us answer what's like the next level of AI and that how can small models be the future, etc. So those kind of problem statements, my hunch was only US would answer. And I think that was one of the best decisions we have ever taken in the company.
So you got all the money wired to the US entity?
Yeah. So the money that was coming to the US came in, like the moment the entity was set up, came in like 3 days, basically. You just sent a safe note, you signed it, you got the money in the bank account. The money that was to be wired in India went through like a whole bunch of processes. We had like physical paperwork signing, like I don't know what all like we had to do, but yeah, like that was like a mess basically for us.
This is late of 2024.
Late 2024.
And then what's the next that happened after that?
We kept building. We got a small house in Bangalore. It was in Indiranagar by the metro station. We got our first couple of employees from random sources. Like, these were not friends. One strong hypothesis I have is sometimes not hiring from your comfort zone is better, because otherwise you end up having like the same learnings basically. So I generally look for like people who I don't know but are also ambitious and can teach me something. So we ended up hiring based on like Twitter and like LinkedIn folks, ex-founders basically, who had tried to build their company, shut down. Very unique profiles. Like the second employee I had hired never went to college. He was training models since he was like 16 years old. Learned everything on his own, right? Another guy had built a services company, scaled it to like $1 million or so, and then shut it down. Very unique profiles we hired for. And we were able to build like a good team initially. I think till this point of time, the VCs did not even know that we would be able to build a team, a product, nothing. They just took a bet on like just 2 hungry people and let's see what happens, right? But I think as this started happening and we started getting interest and they saw us working, we got offers to, do you want to raise another round? Do you want to like extend, etc. For us, it was very clear that we don't want to raise from India more, right? So we actually had great offers at like pretty good valuations in India. But we were like, no, we want to come to the US and we want to raise from here. So I had my O1 process, etc. ongoing.
But did you raise any more amount after that?
Yeah. So what happened was we started the O1 process, and then parallelly, luckily, I was thinking what to do, because we had like 900K and to come to the US, it needs like slightly more capital. So I don't know if you know her, but Aarti Ramamurthy just DM'd me on X. I'm like, wow, like I was just watching her podcast like last year, and like, why is Aarti messaging me? And she just turned out to be very polite, very smart, very down to earth. She was just like curious about what I am building. She was building her own fund, and like she was also investing from her capital. She basically got on a call and she's like, I love you guys. I want to invest, right? And I told her, look, we have this offer from Indian VCs, etc. What do we do about it? So I want to raise from the US. So she said, I mean, that's the right decision. Let me get some angels together for you. You'll get some more runway. And why don't you come to the US and invest? So I did that. Aarti connected me to a bunch of angels. Weber connected me to a bunch of angels. We raised another 900K extension that was at a higher valuation. And we had like 1.8, of which most of it was in the bank. Yeah. So I was like, let's go to the US now. So that's how I first landed in the US. Now, I've lived in multiple countries, right? So for me, US was not like a foreign land or anything. It is another developed country. But what's different is like the tech density, I feel. Like that is the biggest differentiator that I saw here. And anyone could be an American, right? So that I really like. Like I've lived in Korea, but I could never be like Korean. I've lived in like, Germany, Singapore, but like you would not be natives there. You can't be a native in China. I've lived in all of these places, but US, you can be American, right? Like there is this Bay Area has been built by smart people from all over the world coming and like building amazing company. And the other thing I've seen here is talent is appreciated from anywhere. It's not like you have to have an IIT or a Stanford degree. This is full of people who had nothing, no background, no credentials, but just raw dogged themselves and like build an amazing company. And then, now they're very well respected, right? So I thought like this was the place to be. And we wanted to then sort of raise a seed round because we started getting some traction. We had some revenue.
And what was the use case that you were solving for which you were getting traction?
So everyone was building voice agents at that point of time. And we had a model that could power the voice agent. So we had a text to speech model, which basically you could use to give natural realistic voice to the voice agent in under 100 milliseconds. Sure. So initially it was at 200 milliseconds. It came down to 100 milliseconds by the time our seed round was there. And then we had some customers using us for that, basically, right? We also had started other series of model trainings, because to train a text to speech model, you actually need a speech to text model to annotate the data. You need another model to generate synthetic data. You need accent conversion to diversify the data so that for one data set, you could convert it into multiple accents and diversify it. So we had like a portfolio of models that we had developed. And then we had a place where you could orchestrate these models to build the backend infra for a voice agent. So let's say anyone is building like a AI receptionist company in healthcare. They could use smallest AI to basically build on top of it and like build those voice agents. In the future, now what we are building is basically making these agents even more smarter so that the model layer can basically always stay up to date in real time, and all the like user information that it gets from multiple interactions that gets stored in like infinite memory. So we are trying to now separate the compute intelligence layer from the memory layer so that these voice agents can become smarter and smarter as it has more interactions. But that is, so at that point we just had these models. We were doing well. We did not have a lot of revenue, etc. We had like some small accounts here and there. And we went out to pitch, raise a seed round with like
zero revenue.
Almost zero revenue, right? But the difference I saw like here while raising was they're not looking for, obviously people need revenue. At the end, revenue.
This is validation.
It's validation. It gives you the power to negotiate. It gives you the power to say we are real. But people are looking for why you, what's different? Like what are you building? What's your vision of the world? How can you execute the vision? And so I met with Tim Guleri from Sierra Ventures.
And how did you get to know them?
So there was a partner at Sierra Ventures, Ashish. So Ashish is my college senior. And in our like WhatsApp chats, my co-founder was asking about, oh, has anyone trained this model and like this issue we are facing, some CUDA errors, etc. So Ashish saw who is this guy who's like constantly asking
on
about
your college group.
On our college group. Like IIT Guwahati, the college I'm from, it's not like that entrepreneurial in nature.
Yeah, mostly IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay are.
IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, even IIT Madras has.
Even Kharagpur.
These guys have, but Guwahati is still like slightly like newer, and also, I mean, although it is 30 years old, but it's still considered new, and it's also remote, right? Yeah. So not a lot of like startup opportunities, etc. So very few founders to sort of look at, but we were one of the few folks who were like asking around how to build. Oh, they've raised around. So I think that led to a lot of interest from our alumni plus our juniors, because there is someone we can like look up to, and like we can also actually build something crazy, right? So Ashish had reached out to us. He had expressed interest, that we want to invest. I was completely clueless about what does it take to raise a US round, what are they looking for. But then I met Tim. And Tim and I had like a great conversation. Like Tim was very technical, he as a partner, he has been a founder himself multiple times. He's sold his companies. He knows a lot of people in the contact center space. So he felt like the perfect partner for someone like us. He has also invested in like companies that were previously out of India, like Make My Trip, etc. So he had that India angle as well to it. So he seemed like the perfect partner to build like a very big company with, right? And so I think that conversation basically became fairly technical. And then we had a IC meeting, and at that point of time, I had two options. Either I raised from Sierra, or I just raised from an Indian fund and get done with it. I told Sierra, look, I really want to go with you guys. I think I would love working with Tim. I'd love working with you, Ashish. I think we can build a big company here. I told them the same thing, but you need to tell me like today, right? So I remember after the IC discussion, they wanted to have like a dinner that same day. We had a dinner. We spoke about.
I think one company where we invested recently, Sierra offered them, and then they choose engineering capital as the lead.
Okay.
So what I heard is Sierra's usual style is over a dinner, close over a dinner.
Yes. I think that's a good style. Like honestly, like it. Because at the end of the day, I feel if you're not able to have a dinner together,
there's no point in building it for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we met, we spoke about this. Then Ashish offered me a term sheet. And basically we negotiated and closed.
Oh, nice.
So that gave us a lot of relief, because now
you have serious money in the bank.
Serious money and serious US money. Because suddenly the biggest difference I saw was we got introduced left, right, and center to very serious buyers of our product.
For example?
ServiceNow, for example, right?
You have ServiceNow as a client today?
Yeah, we're working with them. We are hopefully going to make some big progress soon. Sure. But like this is just one example, and there are 10 other examples
where you got introduced to folks like ServiceNow.
Yes. Some of them we will publicly announce like in March, April, but like these are like large enterprise accounts. I can tell you, like if we do our job well, just from the introductions we got, we could get to our ARR targets for this year, right? Completely different than how I was operating in India, where we did get introduced, but the introductions were not like that strong that I still had to do a lot of work to actually do the stakeholder management and all of those things, right? And also I just feel the companies here are very, very clear of what they want to buy, what they want to build, and what is the evaluation process for buying. Right. So people would generally not waste time because they don't have time to waste.
So for example, one of the telephony companies that you mentioned, was it also an introduction from Sierra?
Yes. Very, very strong introduction. I obviously like introduction, by the way, does not mean they would buy. So the first call I got on with this telephony company, the CTO grilled me, he grilled me. He was like, do you know this? Do you know that? He's a very deeply technical person. And then I was able to answer those questions because I am also deeply technical. I enjoy what I'm building. I know my products, right? So that impressed them. And then we kept at it. Obviously, we had to do our work. Sierra helped us sort of make sure we understand how their buying cycles have looked like, what do they care about, etc. And then eventually they are like, okay, we wanna do a deal with you. We like the product. We're gonna. And then we went into negotiation, and that's where then I could handle it basically. Now, but I know what the sales cycle looks like for an enterprise. And like this was my first enterprise sale in my life, because in Topper I built like it's more B2C, B2 student, whatever you call it. Vakil Search was again B2B, but like small accounts, etc. This was like first enterprise sale of like my life, right? I have worked with other enterprises in India before, but they always like spent like a lot of time evaluating something seemingly simple. And like, for example, let's say they have to spend 20 lakh rupees, 30 lakh rupees. The amount of time and people that would be involved in that process would easily surpass that 20 lakh or 30 lakh they have to spend. But they would still wait than actually buy and just be like done with it. So I felt like here it's very different. It's very expensive to just drag things along because the salaries you pay to people, all of that is so much. And 20-30K is not a big deal. Like it's fine. So here you could easily make a 20, 30, 40K, 50K sale.
So that telephony enterprise got
that's a much bigger deal, by the way.
But when it started, was it a 20?
Yeah, it was when it started, it was like 10K a month or something like that, which is a big deal. I mean, it's
100K annually.
Yeah.
But today, did it get converted to a 7-figure deal, or
it is converted to a 7-figure, multi-year, multi-million deal. But we will announce it formally sometime like in April or so, once we sort of clear a few things. But yeah, it is that, like, all of those things are in paper right now.
So Sierra happened in April last year.
Sierra happened in June, July, right? So July is when Sierra happened. And yeah, all this happened between.
And how much time end-to-end evaluation to wiring of money in that case?
Like 3-4 weeks.
Okay.
And the only reason it took, it would have been done in a week, but the only reason it took 3-4 weeks or more was because we had money in India, and then the whole, like, the process with like India valuation, etc., took time, right? But if it was US funds, it's just like extremely quick. Like I know people who wired in a week, basically, right? So yeah, Sierra happened in July. I think the money came by September. This deal we closed by December, right? Like that's and so imagine, like, introduction to 7-figure deal happened this quickly.
And
right?
By December it was a 7-figure deal.
Yeah, but by December, so I just closed like last month, basically. Nice. So now it is now there is a scale up period, etc. So it's a like a multi-year deal with a scale up period. So the booked like the booked amount is 7 figures, but yes, the payments, etc., will come over.
Yearly payments are 6-figure.
Yeah. But this year I will make 6 figures from them, and yeah, over like next year, over the next 5 years, I will be making multiples of these, basically. So now going from like nothing to having a serious like conversation with an enterprise where you're talking about these things is a very different place to be in. And now we have multiple such deals that are happening at this point of time, and we know what it takes. We went from, hey, we want to sell to everyone, to like, we have a specific type of buyer. Like, our API should be integrated. They should have used this much. These are the evaluation metrics to send to them. This is how we price. This is how we competitively win the price deal. All of that sort of playbook we figured out because of that first deal that happened, right? And for us, that set the bar to how deals should work. Sure. And you know, now we are setting up a repeatable process sort of to make that happen. I think if we were in India, this would never happen. Never happen. There are probably 20 companies in India who can give us that kind of a deal size, and they would spend an incredible amount of time and effort.
They would waste so much time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then did you raise any round after that?
Yes. So we just closed a Series A. We could call it a pre-Series A, Series A, but like we closed with Seligman Ventures. So Seligman is their ex-partners at Thomvest. They have invested in Cohere, Harness, Isovalent, some of these companies. And they're very seasoned. It's a very large fund. They can support us in next rounds as well. It was a preemptive round for us because we were growing quickly. So we thought, let's do it.
How did the conversation happen with?
So the deal started, I think the deal started happening, and then also we got in between like an acquisition offer for like $150+ million.
So September 2025, you closed Sierra.
Yeah.
Right. When did the acquisition offer happen?
A month after that, probably like October. Yeah, September, October. Right. Yeah.
And then when did Seligman?
December.
Oh, so very quick success.
Very quick cycles, right? So this we got an acquisition offer, we got this deal, and then not just this deal. Now we have multiple other deals that are parallelly sort of already at 6 figures, scaling to 7 figures. So we got an inbound saying that, look, you guys are obviously growing fast. From Seligman. We want to preempt. Sort of preempt this. Let's work together. And so we basically ended up having a conversation. At that point, we did not even have like a proper mechanism for booking our ARR, etc. So we cleaned all that up quickly. I remember I was in the middle of AWS reInvent. AWS is an active reseller of Smallest, by the way. Okay. So AWS had invited us there, and we were like doing a lot of one-on-ones with customers. And then we ended up in between that creating the deck, the whatever the financials, etc. required. They are like, why is your ARR like so messy? But we are like, okay, we are like cleaning it up because you have India sales, you have US sales, you have partnership driven sales, you have taxation is different, US, India, all of that now getting cleaned up. Now we are sort of going to like a formal CFO driven process. So we are getting a CFO. But all of this happened in the last like 3 to 4 months.
Must have been crazy, right? Because you just closed around, got an acquisition which you passed on, and then you got a term sheet. Yeah. And then the term sheet closed in a month, or how much time?
Term sheet closed like literally, like we just took a week to sort of negotiate on something.
From the first conversation to term.
Yeah, the first, I mean, when we got the term sheet from Seligman, it took us a week. I mean, they obviously wanted us to sign then. I think we were kind of completely okay with most of the terms. We just had to make sure we are on the same page regarding a few things. Nothing major. We closed it in a week. And that's basically how quickly things moved, right? So I went back to India after that because we had to tell it to the team. There are a lot of people who have been there with us early on. We want to make sure that with this fundraise, they are also rewarded, their goals are understood, etc. So we did that.
So did you take secondary in this round for
No,
the team?
no.
Not yet.
I will take a secondary at some point of time, but I feel comfortable once our like process is like set and scaled. Right now, I want to see how repeatable this process is as I'm going from a founder-led to a more, let's say, GTM-led sales motion. And if I'm able to sort of slightly take a step back and say, hey, this is a machine that's just working without me, then I will definitely take a big secondary. But right now, I feel there is some work which I have to do to sort of make that happen. Plus, there is some, it's just a personal thing, I guess. Like a lot of people do take secondary on Series A. I felt maybe it's too early for us. Like, yes, we got a Series A, but it was preemptive. We were going to do it in Q1. So, and also I feel the company needs the money right now. So,
and you mentioned you're also getting now offers for preempting again on top of that. And
so we are getting offers to do the next round. But this time when we raised the round, we wanted to be a very well thought out big round with strategic investments and things like that. So we are speaking to some of the strategics, etc., so that we can not just get the capital, but also accelerate the go-to market with the next round and build like a strong partnership driven thing. Our model, business model can scale extremely quickly with partnerships, basically. So, like AWS, for example, all these clouds can be great partners. You have ISVs, you have all your VCs, McKinseys of the world who can basically cross-sell us. So we want to get all of that going and some of these guys to also invest in us. And maybe some of the large voice players in the world.
Like 11?
11 would not be an investor, I would say. I guess they're growing quickly, but they are still not that big.
But they're at 300 mil ARR, 6 billion or 11 billion in valuation.
11 billion in valuation. I think they would definitely see us as competitors, if not anything. Because
but who is your competition? Do companies like Bolna are your competition?
No, Bolna would be a customer to us. So it's people who are building the voice models in real time.
But voice applications are not your customer.
Voice applications are not your competition. So we help people building voice applications, basically, right? So companies like Bolna, Vapi, Retail Brand,
is retail a customer?
Yeah, we are just getting it. So far our GTM motion was very enterprise first. We're just selling to like 2 customers, 3 customers to get like our ARR. Now we are opening it up to everyone, and as part of this strategy in this quarter, we will be listed on all of these.
And how big is the team right now?
The team is close to 40 people right now.
That's just 40.
Oh yeah, that's 40. I mean, also this was not this much. So for example, when we raised a seed, it was 12 people, 10 or 12 people. So these
with selling with the
Sierra. So these 25 people have been added in the last 3 months, basically.
And how many India? How many US?
10 in the US.
And this is all on the sales side?
No, we have research leads as well here. Because in India you get young talent who is smart, but in US you get seasoned talent who have spent 5-10 years studying about a particular subject. And so we generally hire lead researchers in the US, basically. Yeah. So yeah, but the team is fairly young. It's theoretically speaking, most companies would not, I think, need a 40-member team at our stage. Like at least in the US, I've seen lean teams. But training models and just doing research is like an very.
So you get compared on your model efficacy against 11 labs?
Yes.
Who else?
Cartesia is one who we get compared against, but there is some nuance to it. Like for example, 11 has a lot of focus on content creation and like dubbing, and if you want to build like an Instagram video or like a AI movie, 11 would be a great player. We don't focus on content at all. We are focused on the real time space, so very low latency.
So who is the real time competitor then?
Right now, the only other player who's focused on real time is Cartesia, but they are heavily dependent on state space models, and we don't train state space models.
Can you explain in layman what is that?
Layman terms, so state space models, the computation required to basically calculate the outputs is something called subquadratic. What it means is, let's say you have input sentence which has like 10 words in it. So a transformer would take 10 into 10, so a square of it, so 100, that's quadratic complexity. But a state space model would take like less than 100, basically. That's like the simplicity of it. It makes a very big difference when it comes to larger values of input text. So for example, imagine you have 10,000. So if it is square, so it is 10,000 into 10,000, which will be like 100 million, basically. Versus if it is like less than that, so it could be 100,000 or 1 million, right? So
and how do you, let's say, well, this is one, but let's say a customer has to consider.
So that's our biggest problem with state space models. Like we believe like because of this subquadratic computation, it actually does not compare all the tokens with each other by definition, and also does not have a great way to model long-term dependencies really well. And we've seen that happen like in our evaluations, right? So our strong belief is like state space models are not like that big a leap over transformers, and transformers do have a great base, and we see transformers itself scaling, but the way the transformer is today used to sort of just put a lot of pre-training data in it and scale it up, that's not how they're supposed to be used. A very interesting way to think about how attention and these things can be used is like these prediction-based models that Yann, LeCun talks about, GEPA, etc. In our opinion, like those models are actually closer to how we can build AGI than like state space models, which is just a play on compute capacity. How do I say this very simply? The models that Yann proposes, the GEPA-based models, they basically have a predictive view of the world, which means, let's say if I throw a ball at you, you're going to probably move your hand here to like defend yourself, right? Because you're predicting that the ball is going to come, right? But let's say if you're not able to catch it, it still hits your face, you realize, oh, I was wrong, and like you'll correct yourself, basically. So you're inherently predicting the next state of the world given all the time frames till now, and then if those states are incorrect, you do a correction of the model weights and learn from it, right? So that predictive view of the world is what we are missing in LLMs that we want to learn about. And so we are trying to build like a predictive view of voice and like conversations that we can have, so that you can guess what the answer should be rather than how LLMs typically operate. Like that's a very simple way to say it, but I hope that it's a good analogy.
But there's an X enterprise, a telephony enterprise. Why are they choosing smallest again in layman terms over Cartesia?
In like very simple terms, for them, what it means is faster latencies, more parallelism. So on a single GPU, you can fit in a lot more of our models and better quality of voice.
Do companies have to use their own GPUs, or you also provide GPU as a service?
We provide our own like cloud services as well, but a lot of enterprises prefer deploying on their own GPUs because it allows them the capacity to scale up, scale down infinitely.
Let's say the telephony company that you are working with.
Yes, we are doing on-prem deployment for them.
So most of your customers today are on-prem?
We recommend it because for us it's 100% margins, right? If that happens. So we really like folks deploying it on their devices.
But then it's so much bespoke support that you have to provide.
No, so the good thing is when we say on-prem, this is actually virtual private cloud. So it's just they have a like a Docker which they just download into their servers and run it. It's not us going to their place and like with a CD or a pen drive and like doing that. We can do that. We don't prefer doing that. But that of course that will require some bespoke support, etc. But for the virtual private cloud, it's very simple. As long as they have internet, they can download it and run it, and we can support just like we support our cloud basically. So and for us, we don't have to manage GPU capacity. The biggest problem is GPU capacity for customers scales at random times based on their usage, right? So you as a vendor can't keep predicting when they're going to scale up, scale down, but they can. So they let their team manage how they want to scale up, scale down, right? And the biggest issue is today people end up pricing the models extremely expensively because they have to manage the scale up of GPU capacity. Let's say someone says, I want 100 concurrency. So what that means is you will keep, let's say, the number of GPUs always on that can manage 100 concurrency, but you don't want to do that. You only want it on when they're actually at peak capacity and then reduce it otherwise, which is a very difficult problem to solve. So it's just easier to give it to the customer and get them to run it basically. So that works for us, and it's also better for InfoSec compliance. So when you go to banks, when you go to like financial institutions, you generally just want to make sure no data is flowing out of their system, right? So we can provide that as well.
Got it. And so you're saying that today you are at X revenue. Can you share some ballpark numbers on that?
Yeah, it's between 1 to 2 million ARR. And we've grown like 10x in the last 3-4 months, basically. So
I assume you were at 100K when you
150K.
When you got Sierra and after Sierra.
Yeah.
Because you could deliver with the introductions that they could provide.
Exactly.
You just scaled it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But is process-wise, are you enterprise ready today?
Yeah. Yes, we are. So we with that introduction, we kind of learned a lot. We got tons of feedback from like a single enterprise. And what our team did is basically, instead of like going to every customer and like doing requests, we said, give us all of your requests and we're going to make sure our model like just works in all of those aspects of it.
So are enterprise building custom voice applications, or do you go yourself and build those applications?
They build custom voice applications. We don't help them build custom voice.
So you just provide the model.
We just provide the models. We have an infra layer where they can orchestrate the model, but they do the prompting, they do the engineering. We do have a forward deployed team that does sometimes guide people, but as we go higher and higher in enterprises, we don't see this function scaling internally. We see someone like a Capgemini or an Accenture building like a practice around the product.
Are you enabling those companies with capabilities on smallest, like Accenture?
Yes, we are in talks with some of these. So they are the goal is to build a center of excellence where they can use this agentic platform with the models. And let's say they have a business process in some big insurance company that they have really good domain knowledge about. They understand the KPIs, the stakeholders. They take the platform, white label it, use it as an infra layer, add maybe some of their own things, and then automate the whole process with us, right? So we can never do that because, in my opinion, that requires deep verticalization. And today we are not a deep verticalized company. We are a very horizontal infra provider company. And for that, you can't be doing too many things, right? So we need partners. 2026 is also going to be a very partner-led go-to-market strategy, trying to build distribution through other people reselling our products, basically.
Understood. So this year is basically, are you going to invest more in product or just in the scaling?
We are doubling our research team. So we are going from, like right now we are 15 researchers, we are going to 30 researchers, and purely because research gives you ROI in like 6 months. So you can't like hire someone right now and then expect. If you have goals for 2026, like in September, you have to get those people right now.
And what are those folks researching on?
A lot of different topics. We have a thesis as well on our website on how we feel like AGI will be achieved. But basically trying to do some more like ambitious projects and some more applied AI projects around small models. Applied AI projects include, like, for example, things like how could you build a text-to-speech model with even higher concurrency than what it is before. So on a single GPU running more instances. It could be how do you make these voices laugh, cry, like become more human in multiple languages. Those are like applied AI projects. More ambitious sort of research projects are basically, for example, one topic we work on is asynchronous thinking. So humans actually, you are not waiting for me to finish my thought to start thinking, right? So you actually start thinking the moment I say the first word. But LLMs today wait for the whole context, like you give the entire chunk and then they start thinking. So to enable this human-like behavior in AI, you need to work upon asynchronous thinking. So the AI also starts thinking given the first voice that comes in. And so that is one topic of research that we are working on. Continual learning is one topic, which is basically how can you get the model to keep improving as it has more conversations with the customer. So these are like few topics. And then one, I think the topic I love the most is separation of compute from memory. So today LLMs are storing more and more information as they become larger in size. And it's very difficult for LLMs to learn something new because the moment you train it on some extra data, there is forgetting of the older data that it has trained on, and it's just super expensive, inefficient, etc. to run. The way we see the future is you will separate memory from intelligence. So the memory will be captured by infinite layers, and the intelligence will be captured by finite layers of intelligence. And that small model that has those finite layers that can basically be quickly trained through continuous learning, basically. So that separation of memory and intelligence is one thing we are working on. You must have seen a lot of companies that are coming up in the context engineering memory space. They're basically building the infinite memory, and we are focusing on the small models that power the compute.
So is it a winner takes all market, or can smallest be a 300 million ARR company? 11 by the time you reach 300, they'll be at a few billion, and Cartesia will be at a few billion.
I think the markets will diverge at some point of time.
Like what do you mean?
So for example, 11 is sort of doubling down on the content space, but the real-time space, like mimicking how humans do conversations, is like a very different problem than mimicking how movies are made, right? And so I think the markets, and both are massive markets, right? So I think this is definitely not a winner takes all, and we don't even know what winning means at this point of time. I mean, winning at the highest point is basically building like a her. You must have seen the movie, right? Like there's like a very empathetic voice which basically powers every single conversation of yours. So that could be winning. But yeah, it's a huge market. Imagine like every single human in the world has an AI that can talk to it every single day. Like we are not texting this podcast, right? Like we are talking to each other. And imagine like now you have an AI who you feel like having such a long conversation with. Today that does not exist for a reason.
I think, but people have made AI-enabled podcasts where you can talk to Steve Jobs.
Yeah, so that's a good I think market that has come up in like the last 1 or 2 years. But it is still a one-way sort of street, and you would still rely on that for very specific information getting sort of things. But it is not a very generalized AI that can basically like talk to you about it doesn't have a personality basically at this point of time.
And because you said it doesn't have an infinite memory, like as soon as the compute goes up, the memory goes down.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have infinite memory. I mean, that is basically constrained to the information you've given that AI around the podcast, like about Steve Jobs. If you feed the book of Steve Jobs, it will probably just talk about that. But what did it learn from that? Can it apply it to its like own long-term goals? Does it have a long-term goal? Like it does not, right? So that's a very specific, great use case for voice AI, and we will see many such use cases for voice AI pop up. So voice as a market itself is going to be pretty big, but like I'm talking about like the gold standard of why this is like a massive, like a multi-trillion-dollar market is because you are basically gonna have every human as a consumer as this scales
but
up.
then if it's such an attractive market, why not Anthropic and OpenAI playing in this market actively as 11 Labs?
I think there is a different focus. So some of our investors in like our pre-seed was from OpenAI. As I spoke to them, they are building a different kind of intelligence, and I think that's an important form of intelligence as well, which is the large models that can basically take in huge amounts of context, process it, and then come up with something meaningful out of it. Think of it this way: like when humans made aeroplanes, we tried to learn from birds, and we are doing much better there. We are actually flying long distances much longer than we are much faster than what a bird can fly, but we are still not like as agile or light as like a bird, right? So we have mimicked flying, but through a different form of instrument. Very similarly, right now in AI, we are doing LLMs, which is a different form of intelligence than human intelligence. So they have something, and they are playing the sort of let's make LLMs bigger and bigger and smarter, and that is a market as well. But to build human-like AI, I think it has slightly diverged from that goal. Can they do it? Yes. I mean, at any point, like big companies can do anything, right? Yeah. But I think it's just about focus at this point of time.
So today, the scale that you are at, like 1 to 2, what does it require you to build like a 100 million ARR company? Time and money both.
Well, very frankly, my predictions about how much money I need have always changed with time. I think that's the issue with most first-time founders, right? Like when I had raised like the first 900, I thought this was enough to build a 100 million ARR company. Over time, I realized, of course not, right? Like you need more if you're doing pure research, because one is actually having the product, but then the other is an enterprise trusting you that, oh yeah, this is a serious company that can handle like a number of requests from us to sort of make sure it works. Having said that, I still think the capital we have right now is enough to build a 100 million ARR company. So I'll not comment on capital, purely because we already have a great technology, which is selling at scale. And now it's about go-to-market and like building that playbook so that other people can sell this product and distribute this product. Now, very mathematically speaking, let's say you want to do sales, right? So to reach 10 million ARR, you need 10 people doing 1 million ARR each this year, right? So it's a very calculated. If to do 100, you need maybe 30 people like this who are doing 30 million ARR, one maybe partnership model where they have 10 partners doing 5 million each, and then like some pay-as-you-go revenue, etc. Right? So I feel like having calculated all of that, and this ARR that will come from growing from 1 to 10 to 15 this year, that will fuel back into the company and basically act as the lever to sort of go to the next milestone. Having said that, one important, one important milestone for us could be a strategic coming in who can accelerate our distribution. Example, Amazon, for example. Like if you are default on the marketplace, Google, if you are default on the Google cloud and Google starts selling you, example, Accenture, let's say they take your models to all of their clients and build agents. That can accelerate our ARR by quite a lot, right? And so we want to build that, we want to make that happen.
And are you trying to make that happen right now?
Yes, we are already in touch with like some of these folks, and we want to make sure that we do that, but those things take time because Accenture wouldn't like pick like any random product. They want to make sure the product works, it's aligned with their internal goals. They have an internal team that understands the product. They have a roadmap of investment for the product. They have identified the clients for them, and then they sort of start.
So it's like at least a 24-month cycle.
Yeah. It's
because they have to themselves build a 40-member, 50-member team inside Accenture.
Exactly. I mean, if they do generally, if they are able to do one sale quickly, then they accelerate that and they invest more. And so generally it's about that first win together, in my experience. And we are already working with some folks to get that first win, which are in advanced stages right now. So hopefully we'll get that first win very soon. And that should accelerate some of these partnerships.
Got it. So right now, what's your biggest focus for this year, 2026?
We need to get the research right. Like, yes, we have the ARR targets, etc. And I think we can achieve that. But the biggest miss can be if, let's say, the models that we have in mind, we are not able to ship them on time, right? And so we are focusing heavily on research to an extent where I personally know what everyone in the company is working on, and like I have my own thoughts around what the focus should be, etc. Right? So sales in this AI first world happens naturally if the model works. Like,
why do you say that? Because today enterprises are getting bogged down from top-down motions by Microsoft, Salesforce on AI adoption.
I think it's coming down to niches. Like, for example, if you look at image models, there are like few companies that people know are great at image. Like, for example, when Stability AI was there, or like some of this, I think, if I'm not wrong, Kling is doing pretty well in image and video recently. These companies have a large like word of mouth and just self-serve distribution angle, and then that self-serve leads to a lot of bottom-up usage in the company. And like, imagine like 100 people in a company are already using your product, then you can easily do top-down after that, right? So that's going to be our strategy as well, to make sure like the product is popularized and the model just works. Because if you have good word of mouth amongst developers, if people can just easily use your APIs, you can see Cursor, for example, scaled through self-serve. You can see a lot of like new age companies are going from 0 to double-digit ARR in like 3 months by self-serve growth, right? So I think the world of self-serve is coming up. Enterprise will always be there, but it's easier to do if you have a great self-serve product, in my opinion.
And what are the popular applications that are getting made using your models?
People are building like open source Whisper Flow alternatives. People are building customer support voice agents. People are doing debt collection. People are doing AI note takers. So very horizontal.
Can you take example of few companies that have built these applications? Like what company has built what application?
So there is a, like, without taking specific names, but like there is a financial services company based in India which is doing large scale debt collections using us. Like every day we are like at 100,000 calls plus using that.
And you build the application for them, or they build the application?
They have built the application. They are using the platform to do those calls. There is a telephony company that has all of their like meetings, internal meetings, getting like recorded
in India or US?
In US, using our voice models. There is a large customer support company that is very recently started using our voice models to power customer support agents, right? So
something like kind of Sierra kind
yes, exactly, something like Sierra. So we are in talks with them as well. So market is very horizontal. All of CX, all of telephony, all of financial institutions, and more. And also B2C is like a strong thing as well for our market. When you're selling models, and hence all you have to do is make sure the model is really good. As long as it's really good, it matches user expectations, it can handle multiple languages, accents, it can do pretty well in the platform.
Understood. And what are the risks that you have today that can stop you from growing? Both market risk and internal risks.
Well, if there is an AI bubble and something breaks, first of all, I don't think there's a bubble.
Why do you say so?
Because there might be micro bubbles. For example, I feel like some AI products which are like being sold are just sold in a very temporary period of time. Example could be like there are like coding agents, like the top vibe coding platforms are amazing, but then there are a lot of companies that are just trying to build these like very specific coding agents which apparently will be like better than Cursor level. That's not going to happen, right? So I feel like there are like few winners in that space, and like the others are just going to die down, but they have been funded and they will probably go through some acquisition or something to continue, right? But the voice space is very real, because the voice space is an existing market that is getting disrupted. You're not inventing a market. You already have dictation in mobile apps, which sucks. You already have that desktop note taker, which was really bad. Now with generative AI, you have much better dictation. You already have IVR based voice agents, which were really bad. Now with generative AI, it's becoming very natural, right? So you're not inventing a new market. You are taking an existing market, making it much better, and by that you're also making it larger. And so this is a very real market that is here to stay. But coming back to your question, can like a large major global event take off funding from AI? I think that's a reality. Like
for example, one of the large companies like OpenAI, you don't know the internal risk because they're not public companies yet. One of these companies bursts.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next day it's a bubble that's burst.
Exactly.
And all the funding that is happening in AI will stop.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the buying, let's say, would also happen through when you do like pay as you go, happens through other startups or other developers who got money because of VC funding into other startups. And then imagine all of them kind of go bankrupt, then suddenly your customers are not. But that will take a massive major event. And today, at least it looks like folks are doubling down. OpenAI is making progress. Enterprises are adopting AI. Revenue is growing. So it does seem real. I'm not a financial expert of global meltdowns, but
the thing is, we don't know the internal gross margins. For example, if OpenAI is doing 2% GM, and still need more 100 billions of more to fund it.
I'm not an expert. I think the collaboration between NVIDIA and OpenAI is interesting. I think with the latest model, they were talking about even providing feedback to NVIDIA on how the chips should be designed to provide better inference capabilities. To give you an example, NVIDIA chips are generally very bad for voice inference. Like if you have 40 gigabytes of RAM in a NVIDIA GPU, you can generally, if you want to do real time, like 100 milliseconds, you can use maybe 2 or 4 gigabytes of it for our models. And beyond that, if you start scaling, the latency starts increasing. And that is because in NVIDIA, literally the physical distance between memory and the cores of the GPU is so high that the computation happens very quickly, but the time it takes for the next data to load from memory is more than the computation time. And so that becomes a bottleneck. It's memory bottleneck. Now there are other chip architectures that are coming up that are basically having the compute and memory like literally in the same physical space, so that you don't have to go through these cycles of compute memory. And obviously these are not at the scale of NVIDIA, but they are taking up some, they have some traction, and we are also using some of these to reduce the cost of voice. Today the cost of voice is like 1,000 times more than the cost of text. We want to like bring it at par, basically.
Got it. And what's the one is research that you said, but what's your biggest ambitious thing that you are doing right now?
So I think obviously I'll not give you the research answer, because every time someone asks me this, I go back to another research idea that I have. But we are literally creating the like list of top 50 dream customers that we have, and going aggressively through like a top-down motion, a very targeted motion of how could we, get them through a Palantir style approach. Like we know every single thing about the customer. It's not just who is the buyer, what do they do, what have they purchased before, what do they like, are they planning to buy, what is the problem we'll be solving for them if they purchase from us, what are their incentives, all of those things in a very like a PhD kind of manner. You're not doing like sprayed outbound sales where you're like messaging like a lot of people on LinkedIn and figuring out some of them will work. You decide these 50 accounts I want to sell to this year, and somehow I need to get in, right? And I can get in because the technology is good, but what are the other things they worry about? And I just have to make sure I know them. And this is something like coming from a nerdy background that I have is very alien to me, but I have learned it, I think, over the last 1 year or so. And hopefully we'll do a good job.
Yeah, can you share, listen, it might be helpful for the founders listening.
Yeah.
So some of the largest enterprise accounts that you cracked today,
yeah,
how did you crack them apart from introductions? What did you do specifically to make sure you land and win in those accounts?
So I'll talk about this US based telephony company, right? And I'll name it later after this podcast as well, but so we got an introduction through our investors. And I was like, I had just raised the seed. The money was not yet in the bank. I was kind of getting on a call. I was like, oh, if this person does not like me, maybe the term sheet gets pulled. I don't know, right? So I'm kind of like a little nervous, but at the same time, I know my things. Like I know what I am building. I know the problems I can solve. So we have this amazing voice model that converts voice to text called Pulse. It's a speech to text model, runs in real time, 64 milliseconds latency, a lot of other features like emotion detection, gender detection, bunch of other things, right? So it's like 100 different parameters that you should know really well when you're going to do the sale, right? Get on a call with the CTO. The CTO is a engineer himself. He is like a public market CTO, but he is still an engineer. He knows his technology, his teams in and out. So he grills me on like every single aspect of the product in the first call. And the VC who is like investing in me is actually on the call with me at this point of time. And both of us are getting grilled together, basically. But I don't take these things personally. Like you're asking me a technical question. If I know the answer, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna explain to you where we are strong. I'm gonna tell you where we are not. So I'm very like honest when I'm selling to just be sure that your expectations and my reality is matching. So that call happened, 1 hour call. We both were sweating after the call, and I felt it went okay. But once you're grilled, you're not really sure, right? Because someone is not being like polite to you, etc. But I just kept pushing that, hey, let's create like a channel together. Let me give you the models. Okay, nothing happened. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then suddenly, after week 4, they're like, okay, we are evaluating the models. Just give us the model. So we gave the model. They evaluated it. The benchmarks came really, really well. We were outperforming their existing provider, and we were like cheaper, faster, everything. So they're like, okay, we are interested in doing the deal, right? And then from that point onwards, we went into pricing. Pricing negotiation was interesting because I did not know what's the benchmark, how to negotiate. Do I have, I mean, they're a startup. I'm a startup. They know that if I get this contract, my startup would be getting
valued 3x higher.
3x higher. So they know the leverage they have on me. But what I valued is they never pulled that trigger on me. Like here, they were like, they know that. They're like, okay, if you deliver this, whatever your Series A happens, etc., that's great. Plus, we'll invest as well.
Did they invest in Series A?
They are, yeah, we are in talks for that. So it went from them like grilling us to the next conversation. They were like chatting with us. The CTO was really happy. Just yesterday, I met him in his office. We spoke for 2 hours about how the company grew and like what are the problems they were facing with speech, who's working in the team, how are they working, what is their roadmap, how else can we help, like just generally being friends at this point of time. I think this is not a typical thing that people might face with every company you go to, but this is like his personality, right? And I respect that, right? First you check whether someone is capable, and then you end up spending.
First they grilled you for 1 hour, tested your capability.
Yeah, and now between that time till now, they had a list of requests that we had to make sure we are fulfilling for them, and we were shipping those updates every 2 days for them. The entire team was working, like including my co-founder, on it, like literally hands-on reviewing the code. And again, this enterprise, so you can't like ship half as stuff. You have to make sure tests are running. So we made sure we understand their whole org, who understands what, how are they testing, what are their priorities. Delivered all of that and more in this 2 to 3 month process, which led them to sign the contract basically. And then the contract negotiation was just about, I really like this because they were very honest about it. I told them, look, I want you to be at least $1 million account for me, right? Like it has to be. You guys are obviously getting a great deal, but I want this to be $1 million account for me.
$1 million multiple year or $1 million in single year?
Single year. So he said, okay, so we can't do like this year because XYZ reason. And he was very transparent about it. He was showing me the reasons why I can't do it this year. But he said, yes, your technology is important. And we think this year your technology will scale in the company. So let's do like a little north of $500,000 or so this year. From next year onwards, and like we'll also do like a 5-6 year contract where we'll start giving you more and more money.
And what made them confident? Because in fact, like they were an enterprise, right? So they could have easily given you 1 year contract and walk away with it. So what made them confident on signing a 5-year deal?
So I think it's not easy for them to switch technologies very quickly at their scale, right? Imagine like a very large set of products are getting powered by this. Now it's a generative AI model, so it has non-deterministic behavior, right? You want to make sure that non-deterministic behavior is handled and taken care of across all the downstream products that they are building. Yeah. Now, if if something happens and if you are changing the model and some other downstream product breaks, which let's say gets into the news because it's a public market company, that could affect their stock price, right? So that was one of the reasons why they're like, okay, if you are in, then I want to make sure you are in for long term. But it's not like they didn't put in their conditions in front of us before giving us this deal, right? They do have an initial scale-up period with an exit clause. Then they have a non-exit clause after that for next 1 year. Sure. Then you're like, it's like in between they have some exit, but that's fine. Again, you're dealing with a first multi-year, multi-million deal.
And you're also learning with it.
You're also learning. So you would do anything to do that. And the biggest thing, more than the ARR, more than whatever, is now your model works at scale for a very important enterprise.
Or maybe a Fortune 1000 or Fortune 500.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now you can go to 2 others and very confidently say this works, right? Very similarly, we are working with a similar account in India, again at similar stage, etc. Same thing, right? It just like, obviously initially there was some storytelling, there was some feedback, etc. But what I love about my team is they're so quick to respond, take ownership and just deliver. And think of things as problems and solve it. Like other people, like generally what would happen is you would start worrying, oh, this is a problem, how do I solve it? Like, but here you're basically thinking of everything from first principles, and you're saying, okay, this is what they need, let's figure out a way to solve it. And we go right to the level of the NVIDIA architecture to even write our own kernels. So we are not scared of touching any part of the stack. Versus, let's say, you don't have the models, then you're like, oh, this is the model limitation, there's nothing we can do. We are not. We train the models, we can evaluate differently, we can optimize the models for various hardwares. Every single thing is built in-house, and that's, I think, our superpower.
No, Sudarshan, I would love to do a part 2 sometimes of this. We are limited by time.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing to see cutting edge innovation coming from India and with such a high ambition. I think what you are building, if things fall right in place, then today from India, we give example of companies like Postman.
Yeah.
So I think we might give example of smallest in a couple of years.
Hopefully soon. Yeah.
But thank you so much again for doing this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.